Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast, and it is not just another day. It is Let's Pod 2. We'll have postgame tonight for you, but today, a special day in the history of CHGO Cubs. I'm Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Cody Delmendo, and you might know him.
You might.
You definitely know him. Huh? 2016 World Series MVP, Ben Zobrist. Wow. This is the greatest day of our lives.
What a
Welcome.
moment. Thank you for having me, guys. I'm really excited to be here with you. I really am.
So this is really cool for us. We appreciate you stopping into studio. First of all, we're going to talk about what you've been doing and what you have going on, which is exciting, coming up in the next couple days right here in Chicago, and how you're giving back to the community after baseball, right? But still staying involved in baseball a bit. We, of course, want to talk to you about the World Series.
Absolutely.
And maybe just a little bit about the 2023 Cubs who have aspirations of the World Series.
Yes.
The live YouTube chat is the way to experience the CHGO Cubs group, we like to call us. We're a family. Look at all these people joining the live YouTube chat. Make sure you subscribe to CHGO Sports live YouTube page. And if you're listening to this in podcast form, make sure you give the thumbs up. And by the way, give a thumbs up and a like for Ben Zobrist. What else do you want on a Thursday morning but a coffee with Ben Zobrist? This is special. All right, so Ben.
Yes.
It's been about 4 years, right, since we've seen you. And now people are always wondering, is Ben going to go in? Is Zobrist going into managing? Is Zobrist going to go into the front office? Is Zobrist going to take over the franchise? You're giving back in a different way. You're going to give back. You're trying a mental health capacity. Tell us about your nonprofit.
Yeah, so a little transition time for me in the last 4 or 5 years was, obviously retired in 19, and, COVID happened. Everybody experienced the craziness of that. I got to actually spend time with my kids, chill out, which was fantastic to really just be where I live in Nashville and enjoy that. But as I started journeying over the next few years, joined a few mental health organizations on boards and really started getting interested in how do the emotional and mental skills that I learned while I played to perform well on the field, how do you actually do a good job of taking those things into regular life and become a better leader using some of those skills. And so I was like, if I want to do that in baseball, do I want to do that at the pro level? Do I want to coach? Do I want to try to manage or something like that? And I realized travel-wise, didn't really want to do that. I wanted to be with my kids, and watch them grow and do their thing. And so that just led me into, I need to do this with the youth sports culture. The youth sports culture really needs a healthier way to experience this, especially with the NIL stuff and all the craziness that's going on in youth travel baseball, but also travel every other kind of sport. And so that's kind of where I want to make my mark this next season of life. And hopefully, we can make some changes in the game of baseball in regard to some of those things too.
Who did that for you as a kid growing up? When you were 10, 11, 12, who was that person for you, or did that not exist?
Well, it was my dad. Obviously your parents have make a huge mark on you as a young person, or any of your caretakers. Like for some people it wasn't a parent. It might have been an aunt, uncle, a grandparent, a coach. So we realized if we want to work with young athletes, we really have to work with the parents, the family unit, and the coaches particularly, because young athletes need guidance. My dad really taught me mental toughness and things like that on the field, as a lot of parents in that generation did. He was a military guy, so he learned a lot of mental toughness. So that helped me in a lot of ways to perform really well on the field. But then you start dealing with we didn't know how to deal with the fame and the fortune and the craziness that came after 2016. 2015 and 16, 2 years in a row, winning the World Series was like so much coming at you. And I think now with kids having money thrown at them at such a young age and families trying to figure out how do we navigate this whole world, we have to do that in a healthy way. And not just for mental health's sake, because anxiety and depression is rampant after COVID, all that craziness. But not just for mental health, but also just how do you become the best version of yourself on the field and off the field. And that led me into a lot of emotional skill work, emotional health work, and really fully into the mental health world of sports. How do we do that better? So that's what we're working on.
With all that, the last few years, just renewed focus on mental health in all areas of life, but particularly pro sports. How have you, whether that was during your playing career and the years after, how did you see that evolve and the emphasis be placed on that when that may not have been the case before?
Well, we had guys like Joe Maddon brought in Ken Ravizza, who was kind of the godfather of baseball sports psychology. I mean, technically he was more of a coach than a psychologist, but Ken helped us develop a lot of things. A guy named John Elliott, Doc Elliott, who came out of Rice University, was a guy that I worked with, read his book, Overachievement. That made a huge mark on me as a young player, trying to figure out how to deal with the pressure to perform and all that. But it was all mostly focused on the performance on the field. But it was like, how do you transition into being, you're trying to be a hero on a regular basis out there for your team and for your city, but how do you then transition back to being human off the field and all the different roles that you have to play? So I think, that was something that felt like there is some mental health services that are, there's a thing called EAP, employee assistance, that we had available to us. But I wanted to kind of fill the gap of what do you do between just feeling stress on the field and feeling like a true mental health challenge off the field. There's got to be some in between there. We've got to make a bridge to experience that together as a unit.
You didn't have any college offers, after high school. So I'm curious to how the mental health side of just, staying focused and trying to get to where you ended up getting, how that affected you and how that's helped you now, or, helped you moving forward.
Well, one of the things that you have to do as an athlete, especially when you're rising up the ranks, is you've got to do your job and do it well. And I was always good at working hard. I learned, like I said, mental toughness. I learned how to deal with tough things that came at me on the field by getting to the next moment, staying present. That's one of the things Joe Maddon talked about a lot, is how do you stay in the moment, stay present. And you can't be thinking about it's been 108 years since this curse has been broken. I can't be thinking about that while I'm out on the field trying to do my job. So to stay focused and stay really detailed of what you're working on is phenomenal. But if you don't actually go back, if you experience a really high and a low on the field, if you don't go back and try to take a breather, take a rest, and kind of, what did I just go through? And I think I wish I would have been able to do some of those things during my career a little bit more instead of just moving to the next moment. So as a young player, I was able to move to the next moment, but over time, that compounds. And I think nowadays for kids, there's so much being thrown at them, and even families, there's so much being thrown at them that I don't know that our systems were made to really deal with all of that success and failure, the rankings, the money, all that stuff at such a young age. We've got to help give these kids and families and coaches the tools that they need to really thrive in that atmosphere, right? And not just feel the pressure.
It seems like the fact that you didn't have any college offers and you had to, really work hard, like you said, in a way, it just benefited you because you just had this drive.
I think you're exactly right. I didn't worry about that because I was just playing for the next time I got to play. I was like, well, maybe I'll play one more year and then that'll be it. I thought after high school I was done playing. So then to play college, I was like, this is amazing. I get to play college, and it was like I'm getting a college scholarship to do this. And then I never thought, well, I'm going to play pro ball. And then when I got to pro ball, it's like, well, let me see if I can just make it to to single A, make it to double A, make it to triple A. And then the next thing I know, I find myself, because I'm focusing on a daily grind, I find myself in a place I never thought I would be, and with a career I never thought I would have.
My cousin runs USA Gymnastics, and so he dealt with Simone Biles' mental health, right? It became a international story. So that's like at the very high level. What you guys were dealing with in 2016, very high level. But what you're doing this weekend and in some of these programs, it sounds like is you're reaching out to everybody. What about me, the guy that sucked in high school and couldn't hit a curveball and had to deal with that? And you know what? I took up tennis is the way I decided to go about it.
All-state bullpen catcher right here.
Right. So how does this apply to the everyday Joe or the kid that just might be an average athlete in addition to Ben Zobrist and Simone Biles?
Well, I would ask you this question. Are you experiencing the sport that you love in the way that you really want to experience it?
Yes.
Because so many people, I think, love the game and they experience it, but then they're pulling their hair out at the end of the day when things don't work out the way they want them to.
Sure.
And they end up feeling so stressed about things because they're having a bad season or their team's having a bad season, or you're experiencing the emotion as if you're out there playing, even though you're not, right? Because that's what a great fan is doing. And so I think until we all do our own internal work around that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not calling you out here, but it's like we all have to figure out, is this the experience I really want to be having around the sport?
Well, I mean, what you're saying is this might be good for all of us just as fans. Like in 2016, I'm reporting, and so I'm handling that job, but I'm also inside as a fan, like Dexter Fowler just hit a home run to lead off the World Series, and I can't show that side.
Yeah.
So fans go through it, and we were just talking about this in the chat. Somebody said, hey, this team this year is the most fun team since 2015, where there were no expectations going into the year. 2016 for that person was nothing but Tums because they were so nervous. Everything was going great, and then you get to the postseason. So how do you balance that? I am having fun, but I want to get to the finish line too. Like that's the fine line.
Well, yeah, I mean, because we love to win, don't we?
Yeah.
We love that tension to a certain degree of like what's going to happen, right? We thrive on that drama at times. That's what makes sports so much fun. I also think that when it starts leaking into, hey, I can't do my work right now because I'm so tense with what's going on with my team, like that's a problem. Like it's just obviously it was a problem for us on the field if we're going to let what we're thinking about the game affect what we're doing, the job that we're doing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the same thing happens for fans, right? I mean, you might be struggling with a bad loss or even a success that you're not able to function. And that's honestly what happens with young athletes too, right? Ultimately, they have school to do. They have other parts of their life that are really important to them. But sometimes the sport itself overwhelms everything else because you're so emotionally tied to it. And if you don't have some tools to like learn how to like reorder your thinking and reprioritize at times, it can be unhealthy, and just not leave you not having the experience you really want to be having around the passion that you have.
Yeah. This applies to everyday life, right? All the mental health stuff does, whether it's maybe it's not even an athlete. Maybe it's a kid that's trying to get into a school that's at the top of their wish list for college, and they're trying to get there, but the ACT and the SAT are too much to handle. These same skills apply. So Saturday, you're going to be at the Jason Hayward complex, is that right?
Yeah, Jason Hayward's Baseball Academy inside of Intentional Sports Facility here in West Chicago. I mean, it's a fantastic facility. The people that run it are doing a great job, and we're really excited to partner with them and offer this. This is our first ever live event. It's called, I think, a master class, but look, I'm not a master at this. I'm still learning just like everybody else. I have kids in sports, and I mean, I get emotional about that too, right? And it's really a workshop of here's some of the tools and the skills that I've learned over the last several years, combined with some of my experience of playing on the field and knowing how to avoid some of the craziness that you're feeling while you're playing so you can get the job done, but then also what I wish I would have known. There are certain things in my career that I did really, really well, and obviously I had a very successful career. But then did I experience everything the way that I wish I would have? No. The answer to that is no. And I think if I'd had some of these tools, especially as a young athlete, coming into my sport as an elite athlete, I would have probably enjoyed the whole experience a lot more than I did.
But what if you enjoyed it and weren't the 2016 World Series MVP?
And I wasn't?
We like the way you did enjoy it.
Listen, I'm glad I had that too. But I think the reason why I was able to do that was for an even greater purpose in my life, which is going to be to help a lot of people off the field, right? And ultimately, I think we all want to win. We want to win in life, but we want to feel purpose more than we want to win. You know, because purpose is what makes you feel at the end of the day like satisfied when you hit the pillow. That was so fun. It also gives you energy. And that's one of our main principles or pillars of what we're helping people achieve through some of the work that we're going to do with them.
So with it's at the Jason Hayward Baseball Academy.
Yep.
You're giving back. Jason Hayward's giving back. Is that something you guys talked about when you were teammates about just how to give back and how you'd like to?
You know, we didn't talk about that because we were so focused on winning. we were focused on doing what we needed to do as teammates. But one thing that Jay Hay was so good at is paying attention to what everybody around him needed. Mm-hmm. And that's why he did what he did in Game 7, calling that team meeting during the rain delay. I mean, it's one of the biggest moves I've ever seen of anybody to really recognize what everybody around him needed and then to make it happen, even though he had feelings himself. You know, he had enough emotional intelligence at the time to know the way I'm feeling is not as important as the way collectively we need to address this thing right here. And I think ultimately we all have bad days. Like, you know, you're going to have times where you don't want to help somebody around you. But you have to recognize that and know, like, hey, I might have a harder day today, but if I can go help somebody else and do something like this, then at the end of the day, we're all going to win. We're all going to find a way to win. And that's what Hayward did at the time. He was that kind of guy, which is why he ended up, I'm not surprised he was involved in building this facility. And it's why I want to give back in that way too.
So that moment wasn't overhyped afterwards. You think that moment was everything?
Underhyped.
Underhyped.
Underhyped, oh, wow. In my opinion. I mean, as a teammate, a guy sitting in the room, knowing how important that was to changing the internal mindset, because that's what people don't see. You see what happens on the field, but what you don't see is the momentum, the motivation, the shift that's happening internally in a moment like that when somebody refocuses you on what you need, which is why the parents and the coaches are so important for a young athlete. They're the ones that help a young athlete refocus on what they need to. And if a parent isn't doing that, or a caretaker isn't doing that, you could actually be the person that's foiling the focus that needs to happen for that young athlete, which is why we all got to do that work.
All right, we're just touching.
I don't know about you guys, but I could have used Jay Hay at my house that night.
We all could have used Jay Hay at our house that night.
Every Cubs fan around the world could have used him, as well as the team. We are talking to World Series MVP, former Cub Ben Zobrist, right here on the CHGO Cubs Podcast. Hello to everybody in the live chat. It's been scrolling by so quickly that I haven't been able to keep up with everybody that's there. If there are any questions out there, see our guy Matthew Gregory says, "Preach, Ben, preach."
Scott Crawford says, Zoe's hitting so close to home. My son, mental health was crippling when things went wrong until we worked through it, and together with a trainer he looks up to has made such a difference.
There you go.
Which is
that's
awesome.
it right there. That's like you have the right coach, trainer, somebody else around you, plus a parent. I mean, that was, I'm sure, so important in Scott's son's life, right?
Yeah. It really is all about the support system that you have.
100%.
Okay, so we're going to talk about 2016. We're going to talk about the future Cubs, but I also want to tell you guys quickly about our friends at Ray Chevy. Are you in the market for a new or used vehicle? If you are, then we have some great news for you, because Ray Chevy in Fox Lake has joined the CHGO team. We're talking to the team at Ray, and they have this pledge called the Ray Price Promise. It's a guarantee that the price you see online is the price you pay when you go into the dealership. Now, I found personally that in many cases, other dealers are going to raise the price on you when you come into the dealership, saying things like, are you a recent grad? Are you active in the military? Are you a farmer? Most cases, and in my case, all cases, the answer is no. That's when other dealers raise the price on you, saying the price online is limited rebates and you no longer qualify. Well, at Ray, that's not the case. The price you see online is the price you pay. No add-ons to the price ever. In fact, Ray will do everything possible to find you additional savings for what might make the price even lower than what you see online. And after you get that new car, what do you go out and celebrate with? One answer, bacon. Bacon is the answer. Charlie the Bacon Guy. Based out of Woodridge, Illinois, he makes craft bacon and bacon jams in over 30 different flavors. The product is always nitrite and nitrate free. Order lots of bacon. Order lots of bacon. It's vacuum sealed, freezes great. Bacon lasts about, in a package, 45 days in the fridge, 6 months in the freezer. Bacon jams last 60 days in the fridge, usually about 20 seconds in my house, and up to 6 months in the freezer. I can tell you that they have all kinds of flavors. They have maple pepper, French toast, chorizo, giardiniera. The bacon jam goes perfectly on anything, and scrambled eggs, toast, crackers, burgers, grilled cheese. Charlie's favorite, the spoon. He'll deliver it to you or meet you halfway, even ship it. Get the bacon on time. Follow him on Twitter at CZ the Bacon Guy, or Instagram Charlie the Bacon Guy. Just DM him. I'm going to tell you the truth. Last night, the old bacon jam, had never tried it, was in the freezer. My wife and I got the kids to bed, and we're like, all right, we're making some healthy chicken wraps, right? We got a little grilled chicken there. We've got some what do you call those? Pickled onions.
Sure.
Thinking, okay, we'll put some of the little avocados on there. And I said, hey, what do you say we kick it up a notch? Should we pull out Charlie the Bacon Guy's
awesome.
jam tonight?
It kicks everything up a notch.
And my wife looked at me. She's like, I've had a bad day. Do it. We went in there. We heated up this bacon jam. And the first bite, my wife, she goes, this is legit.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had it on Saturday at a party. I brought some to a party. It was
There you go.
phenomenal.
We didn't try it on crackers yet. That's been recommended.
No, I did
But I am
Ruffles.
going to throw it on a hot dog at our tailgate this weekend. Let me tell
Maybe we
you.
can get Ben to hook up. He's been in the office, so maybe we can help you.
The
out.
only way to make that better is to be sitting in Ray's car while you're eating Charlie's bacon.
Yeah, why
right?
do you want a new
Big brain right
Why do
here.
you want a new car smell when you can have bacon smell
Yeah,
instead?
Absolutely.
So we are sitting with Ben Zobrist, former Chicago Cub, longtime Major League Baseball player. Let's see, Tampa Bay, Oakland,
Kansas City.
Kansas City,
Yep.
World Series, and then the Cubs. How is each city different for you? I mean, I would assume, obviously, the Cubs are a totally different animal, especially being an Illinois guy.
Yeah.
But how were they each different?
Just different parts of the country, too. People are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Florida was a pretty relaxed vacation type of atmosphere. It was hard for us to get fans in the stadium, but the fans that were there were very loyal and very into, especially when we won, like, people were coming out. I mean, they were, especially for the playoffs, but it was like in August, you might be leading in first place, but still not getting a great draw at times, which was hard. And I think Tampa Bay's kind of been experiencing that a little bit this year as well. But overall, just different. You know, they were a different part of the country. San Francisco, Oakland, the Bay Area. I mean, those fans have been through it, right? And now they're losing their team to Vegas, right? And it's just, I mean, those fans were even feeling it at the time, I think. You know, but they were kind of like that. They were considered the Tampa Bay was considered the Moneyball of the East Coast at the time, right? So then I went to the actual Moneyball of the Oakland A's. They were hoping we were going to end up being good. We had some injuries. We struggled at the start of the season. We ended up getting in last place. So then I go to the Midwest. Fans in the Midwest, right? A smaller city. Kansas City doesn't have that many people, not near as big as Chicago, right, as far as cities go. And those fans, like, just Kauffman Park is definitely one of the most underrated stadiums in the entire league. And especially being good in 15 and 16 like we were, they packed it out. I mean, it was the game in town at the time. And, like, I didn't experience the bad years in Kansas City like they've had where, you know, it was harder to – I mean, I saw it at its finest, and that was an incredible experience. But then you go to the city of Chicago, which is one of the best cities in all of the nation. And I grew up in Illinois, right? So I just have this Midwest kid in me, too, that just really enjoys the underdog story. And you got the Cubs that hadn't won for 108 years. So it was like this – I'm glad I experienced it the way that I did. I'm really glad that because it was like Tampa Bay was my first foray in the big leagues. For me, that felt amazing. And I go to Oakland, Moneyball, struggled over there, but I experienced the Moneyball. Then I got to go to Kansas City at the best possible time, right? Experienced the best of Midwest, small city, you know, winning a World Series was phenomenal. And then you go to Chicago. And I'm just glad that was like the last experience. If that had been the first, it would have made it would have kind of made some of the other experiences pale a little bit, just because it was so huge. I mean, what was there? 6 million people at the parade.
Yeah,
it was nuts.
Yeah, I believe you signed with the Cubs in early December of 15, so not that long after the season actually ended.
Very close. Yeah.
What drew you to the north side of Chicago? What about that team? Was it the manager, Joe Maddon? Like, what was the driving factor of you wanting to sign with that team at that time?
Joe was a big part of it. Joe and Dave Martinez, who's the bench coach, who's over in D.C.
Washington.
now. Yeah, those guys, we came in Kansas City. We had a makeup game in September where we had to come back to Chicago just for one game. We lost it was a walk-off home run by Donorfia, if anybody remembers that game in 15. And the Cubs weren't, it was a big year for the Cubs too in 15 to get to where they got to lose to the Mets, but ultimately, like, it was a dream just getting there for them at the time. And I knew, looking at the young players, I was like, they're going to need some veteran guys. And for me, I was like, I think I would fit in chemistry-wise really well. Joe and Davey were telling me that. They were like, look, if you get to come here, if it's the right deal, you absolutely need to do it. They were like, we need you. You can help us take it over the top, kind of a thing. And then when I saw them signing, Hayward and Lackey and some of these other guys that had won before, Rossi was already there, Lester was already there. I'm like, combined with guys like Rizzo, Javi, KB, Schwarber, I mean, just all these young guys, and then Wilson ends up coming up. Some of the prospect guys that were coming up that year. It was. I just looked at it as a veteran player at the time and said, if there's any chance to win, it's going to happen very soon for them, and I want to be a part of that. It was like, this is the championship that hasn't been won. This is the penultimate sports championship to win right now in all of sports. I mean, what other sports franchise can say they hadn't won in over 100 years at the time?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's something in Europe or whatever, but not here in the U.S. That was the thing.
Yeah.
When I think about you in 2016, outside of winning the World Series, all I can think about is you coming to the ballpark full dressed in uniform on your bike or whatever. How did that start? I kind of got the feeling you talked about coming to the Midwest, grow up in the Midwest. I feel like it's such a Midwest thing to do something like that. But where did that idea come from?
Well, Wrigley Field is the most special, the most special place in all of sports, in my opinion, just because it's popping into, like, now it's a little bit more developed around the ballpark, but you can pop in from a street and just be walking down the street and you see the side of this big facade of the stadium and you're like, what is this? Right? And then you realize it's a major league franchise right there in this neighborhood, in Wrigleyville. Well, we lived a mile away in another neighborhood in North Center area right there. And living that so close felt like I can ride my bike like I'm a kid going to a Legion baseball game. I can ride my bike. And as I rode past, there's some ball fields not far from there where my son played Little League. And I'm like, how great would it be if I put my uniform on like a kid, ride my bike with my glove on the handle, stop there, and they're like, hey, that's an actual Cubs player. Yeah. And take some pictures, have fun with it. Call it Sandlot Day, whatever you want to call it, and then ride the rest of the way. And I did it the day after we clinched. So I knew, look, it doesn't really matter if I cause a little buzz. I don't think I was even playing that day. So I was like, this is the perfect time to do it. It was kind of a relaxed game based on the fact that we were already in the playoffs and they were going to not play a lot of us starters. So I was like, that's how it started. And I did it every September for one day after that, and it ended up being on a baseball card and whatever. Not. It was really fun.
Yeah.
That's
so you did enjoy the experience at times and take time to, in the middle of getting ready for the biggest postseason Chicago would ever see, to do things like that. The super chat, we have a couple of them, right, that I want to read real quick. Our guy Mike Dubs, $10, says, what was your emotion or thoughts when you had the double in the 10th inning?
Oh, man. Well, when I hit the ball, I remember seeing it go past a diving Ramirez glove. And when I saw that it wasn't going in his glove, I honestly, my mind blanked. I mean, I think I operating on years and years of what to do next. Because my mind blanked on rounding first. I don't remember rounding first. I don't remember anything I saw there until I was about 10 feet from second base, and I knew that it was a stand-up double, and I did the jump and pump, and I was just like, what just in my mind I'm thinking,
base,
what just happened? And I look over at Rizzo, and he's going, and I had chills. I had complete chills. I'm like, that was the biggest moment. I just knew at the moment. I was like, that's the biggest moment of my career.
Is it loud or is it silent? Because in the movies, it's almost silent.
It is absolutely silent.
Really?
When I'm focused on what I need to be focused on, I don't hear anything else. And then I hit the ball, silence, 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 until like I said, 10 feet from the base. And then it was everything. It was like from nothing to everything. And it's amazing how filmmakers can really do that. By the way, I think there needs to be a film made on that season, Game 7, whatever.
I'm still waiting.
I mean, it needs to happen.
Bill Murray doesn't have many days left.
Let's go, Bill.
He needs to be in this movie.
Oh, 100%.
I thought that the other day I was
Play
watching
himself in
Winning
the
Time on
stands.
HBO about the Lakers dynasty, and I was like, this is great and all, but this is not the 2016 Cubs. You want to start back earlier in Cubs disappointments and lead your way up to 2016. That's the script for Hollywood. Somebody's going to do it.
I'm in.
Who should play you in the movie?
I have no idea.
Come on, just say Brad Pitt. That's what we would all say. And Brad Pitt would be good.
Brad Pitt. It's not that. Casey Bond. Casey Bond is a friend of mine who's an actor.
Okay.
Maybe he can do it. Or yeah. We'll stick with Casey on that one. Shout out to Casey.
More super chats. Chris says, what's up, fellas? Joined late, but love the show. Going to be filling my ears with CHGO pods because I'm in the middle of a drive to Chicago from Fort Worth. 9 hours to go.
Wow.
Do you guys think Friday or Saturday will be a better game?
Well, you're going to be there this weekend, aren't you?
Yeah,
I heard
I'll
you're
be
throwing
there.
out the first pitch.
First
tomorrow?
pitch on
Yeah,
Friday?
Friday, but I'll be at the game Saturday too, just to watch. So I don't know who's pitching. Who's pitching those
The
days?
Ass Man
Friday,
goes
it's-
tomorrow.
It's Assad
Yeah,
today.
Javier Assad.
Okay, yeah. The Ass
Assad
Man
today, Tyone maybe Friday, and then they're I can't remember the rotation, but I know they're going.
What
over
about
It's got to
for
be
Clive
Steele
Briscoe.
again, isn't it?
What about on the other side?
I don't know.
I don't know, but the Diamondbacks are bringing.
And
up
we
their
don't
top
worry about the other
prospect,
team.
we know
We
that.
don't worry about the other team. It doesn't matter. It's
Has-
all about what we do.
See, now that's what we as players are always thinking about. Who's pitching? Who are we facing? You know, if I was a position player, I'm like, who are we facing? I always believed in our guys on the mound. Like, oh, great. Well, you know, we got this guy going or that guy going. It's like, now what's the other guy? How's he been pitching? Because that matters in all your prep and scouting and all that stuff. You're thinking about all that.
Here we go. We got Tyone tomorrow versus Zach Gallen. That's
Ooh,
gonna be
okay.
a tough
That's-
one.
yeah.
That'll be a
And
tough
Saturday, Steele versus Merrill Kelly.
All right.
Another tough one. So
Yeah, and Kelly's a good veteran guy now too. He's got repertoire. Those are going to be challenging games. But hey, let's get the wind blowing out a little bit.
Ooh.
You know, get some balls in the air.
Yeah.
Let's see some runs scored.
I had a question based on something that Luke said. So that 2016, you know, the expectations and the pressure, it's like not. And that wasn't just in that Game 7 or even that World Series. Like it was the year everyone kind of expected the Cubs to win the
Opening
World
day.
Series, right? Opening day. That's again. You mentioned 108 years. Like that's a lot of pressure just from the jump of not only winning the World Series, you know, going from opening day to winning the World Series, but going from opening day to winning the World Series on the biggest cursed team in the history of North American sports. How did you guys, if you felt the pressure, how did you guys handle that throughout that season?
Yeah, well, we had really smart dudes in the front office, and you know Theo and Jed and those guys that put that team together. They knew it was the right mix. But then you also have to have a guy like Joe Maddon that can help frame up what's happening when we show up, because we all knew we were going to be good. But some teams like the Mets, look at the Mets this year. You know, they thought they were going to be really good, and what happened? It was a really bad year for them. And I feel like Joe did a great job of saying the embrace the target early on. It's like, this is what's happening. We are the target. People are going to want to beat us. Let's embrace that early on, know that we're the team to beat, and let's live it out, right? And so we were focused from the moment, the jump, knowing we are the team to beat, believing that before we ever left spring training, we're the team to beat. And then you have to see it play out, though. The first few weeks, month, you need to see some good things happen. And we started out well that year. That was very important to know we're in first place the entire season. Still doesn't change how things flip in the postseason. You know, it could flip really quickly in the postseason, but just to know and believe early on that we were the best team in the division, and we let that play out. We had a really bad swoon in June before the All-Star break, and Joe was like, hey, look, guys, this was bound to happen. This is part of a season. Kind of kept the focus on, like, I know people are worried. We've lost some games in the standings. Listen, go take a break, rest. And the other thing Joe was really good at, too, is creating fun in the midst of, like, those losing streaks. So that's when he would really pour on the dress-up days. You know, if you guys remember those days.
Yes.
I think I still have, like, a closet full of costumes with all the stuff, the Joe Maddon special travel days that we did. And those types of things broke up the seriousness and the weight of losing streaks and things like that, which are really important to refocus, you know, say, hey, look, let's have fun. This is, even though we're getting paid a lot of money for this, and we all, you know, there's a lot of people that care that we've been losing and we need to change it. Yes, and we got to have fun, because you don't change those streaks around by putting more pressure on yourself. Everybody's trying their hardest, especially at that level. They're giving their all. It's the question is, can you rebalance things when things are mentally and physically just not going in the right direction?
Never let the pressure exceed the pleasure.
There you go.
I have a belief. I know Joe took a lot of grief from fan bases all over the world about some moves that were made late in the series and in Game 7. I believe, and I'm curious how you feel as a player and the MVP on that team in the World Series. I believe that as great as the players were and they were the right group, I believe that without Joe Maddon as the manager, it might not have happened. Because of the pressure that you're talking about, everything that you're talking going, I feel like at that time, he was the perfect manager for that group.
I 100% agree with you, and the reason is, one of the things, I was just telling somebody about this morning, one of the things that made Joe perfect for that team is he was able to take the pressure out of the room, and especially for young players. And when you need young players to really perform well in a place like Chicago, right? I mean, it's a fantastic sports town. You know, you can put Chicago, Boston, New York, LA in the same category of, like, hey, these are storied places of franchise championship, franchise lore, and there's a lot of pressure to win. Even though the Cubs at the time were still considered lovable losers, right? You know, and everybody's trying to figure out how are they ever going to get past this moment of the curse. We still, like, with that pressure, Joe's like, these young guys need to know that they can just be themselves out there. And he was 100% the guy at the time to make it happen. But I think you could say that also about some of the key players on that team.
Including him.
Yeah. You
I wasn't thinking. I was thinking of more like even a guy like
including
even
him.
a guy like David Ross, who's the manager now.
Yeah.
David, even though he didn't play that much that year, when he did play, and the voice that he had in the clubhouse, and the way that he was the captain of that team, and also, you know, the KB Rizzo play on Grandpa Rossi that year. There were so many things about just each of those pieces of the puzzle that year that were really important.
So when you arrived and we were coming up the elevator, we kind of talked about, I mentioned that I grew up in Central Illinois, and obviously you're from Eureka. We got the Eureka bobblehead. One of the moments during the World Series that I feel like no one here in Chicago even realized, except for people who lived in Peoria or Central Illinois, was in Game 2 when you got that hit off Zach McAllister. I think you guys took the lead in that moment. You guys won that game, so whatever. All I know is when I lived in Peoria during 16, after you guys won, I know you ended up doing like a baseball camp with him. A month after, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm curious to how that conversation you had with him after the World Series perhaps went.
Well, you know, Zach's such a good dude, and, you know, a Midwest kid as well, and we grew up in the same area, and what a talented pitcher he is. And now he's still pitching. Like, now he's in the sidearm game, I believe. Like, he's down here. But at the time, he was like an over-the-top, hard-throwing dude that, you know, the ball just jumped. Like, it was hard to get on top of that ball. And I knew, look, I've got to catch up to it. I've got to get out in front of it. I got to get up above it. Was able to get a big hit off of him in that moment. But going into after we had won and all the experience, obviously it wasn't his favorite moment.
Yeah.
But we had been teaming up on this clinic we had been doing in Peoria for years up to that point. He was always really gracious with his time. I knew what kind of a good guy he was, and I knew he was going to handle it with grace. And he did. It wasn't surprising to me the way that he handled it. But it is uncomfortable. You're like, oh, man, I almost want to say sorry, not sorry. I'm glad we won, and I'm glad I got – but also, man, I wish it would have been somebody else instead of you because you're such a great dude.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's just – you deal with those tensions whenever you're playing against a friend.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think that – or I wasn't trying to say that maybe there might have been any tension or anything, but it was just for someone who grew up and lived in Central Illinois his entire life to see, like, that moment actually come together, even though it was, probably a moment when – people think back to the World Series, it's probably near the bottom of the list because of Game 7 and Game 6, Game 5. So many incredible moments for Cubs fans. Like, when I think about your part in the World Series, I always think about that just because at the time, everyone, like a lot of fans, obviously, where I lived, were either rooting for you because they were a Cubs fan or they just liked you because they lived around Eureka. Yeah. And then McAllister being from Chillicothe, I felt like it was either people who just hated the Cubs or, were a fan of him. So,
the Peoria area was watching, especially I know some of our friends and people that were involved in that clinic were like watching with bated breath. Oh my gosh, Ben is facing, Zach at the time. It was a neat moment, definitely a neat moment. And, if he'd have struck me out, I hope I would have handled it with just as much grace as he handled it with.
Well, I guess we'll never know, right?
Yeah.
Thankfully,
good thing we don't have to know. Cody, tell us about Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary.
I'm sure Ben wants to know plenty about it. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your football season, no matter where you are on your cannabis journey. Easy online ordering and in-store pickup, great transparent loyalty program. Sunnyside rewards. Some of the house of brands, some of the favorites that are out there include Mindy's, the best tasting gummy and chocolate edibles created by James Beard Award-winning chef Mindy Siegel and Cresco Labs. Good News, Cresco, High Supply, Wonder, and a lot more through October 15th. Head to sunnyside.shop and use code CHGO25 at checkout for 25% off your total order. One use per customer, not stackable with other promotions. That's not only for new customers. Anyone can use our code. Pick up everything you need to elevate your summer. Must be 21 plus or an Illinois Med Card holder.
And afterwards, go ahead and get yourself a CHGO diehard membership. Ben doesn't know about this yet, but we're going to tell him about it. Here at CHGO, we have memberships. And you can go ahead and go to allchgo.com. When you sign up for a membership, that membership is for a year long. You get all of Ryan's content from the press box at Wrigley Field. You get 20% off all year long. Our events, for instance, Ben, we've got a huge tailgate coming on Sunday. If you're still around on Sunday, please join us for the Bears tailgate. Green Bay sucks.
Packers. It's a big one.
Bears Packers. We loaded up all the Goose Island and Firewater barbecue. People can drink, and we have a good time. Got a new location, Wabash and what is it? Wabash and what? Cermak, yeah. You get a free shirt when you sign up from our dope merch locker. Wearing one right here. Get your choice. Got lots of sick drip, as the kids say. There's the members-only Discord where you can join in and ask questions to different people. Fellow Cubs fans, don't miss the tailgate on Sunday. I'm telling you, Wabash, Cermak, all you can handle, food and beverage. Good times. Ben, I don't know if you know this, but the word around here is vibes. That's a word I've learned in the last year and a half. Everything is a vibe.
I like vibes.
2016 was a vibe.
It was.
CHGO is now a vibe. Having Ben Zobrist on the show
is a vibe.
Has
big
been
time
a vibe. Yeah. We are vibing, as one might say.
Boy, we have more super chats. What's Darren Johnson saying? I can't see it down there, Law. Cody, can anybody read that from where they're at?
Question for Ben. Aside from winning the World Series, what did you enjoy most about playing for the Cubs? Also want to say thanks to CHGO Cubs team and Zoe. Really special show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to him.
So,
yeah. Well, I would say even if we hadn't won, if we had a rough season, I think there's something really special about playing at Wrigley Field. there is a feel when you're standing down on the field with a day game. You know, you got the capacity crowd, and people are just enjoying themselves. They're enjoying the game. There's nothing like that baseball feel that, like, it transcends time. It transcends, like, the old eras to the modern era and all that. It's like the cathedral of baseball, in my opinion.
Ryan Sandberg described it once as walking onto the field and seeing nothing but green before the Jumbotrons. And I think that is true. Like, just visually, it's a different looking ballpark than anything else out there. There's a lot of cool new stadiums, but Wrigley Field is all by itself as a special location. So 2023, now we're with the Cubs here, and I'm thinking a couple things. One, I wish more players would wear the black spikes like Ben used to. I don't know why we don't see more black spikes. I was hoping you were going to wear them in here today. I thought,
I got the PF Flyers with me. I'm going to wear those when I throw out the first pitch.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, that's
awesome. Yeah, the black PF Flyers.
Okay.
Very nice. So a couple things we want to ask you about the 2023 Cubs. You are the ultimate utility Swiss Army knife player in the history of baseball, in my eyes. Like, you did it to a level, obviously, World Series MVP, you did it to a level that nobody else was doing it at. It's not an easy job bouncing around, playing this position, and you didn't play them, you excelled at them. Now, Christopher Morel is a guy who's on this roster, and we talked about him all season long. He's got this crazy power, he's got this crazy athletic ability, but the first 3 quarters of the season, they weren't sure where to play him. So you'd see him at third one day, then you'd see him in right field, you'd see him in center field, you'd see him at second base.
Left field.
He could play all of them.
Yeah.
How difficult is that for a player, and how difficult would it be for a player at a young – would you have advice for him as a young player to, like, this is how I would approach it because I've been through it?
There's definitely there's a lot of challenges that come with it, especially when you're talking about, like, there's cards that have the scouting of this player that's batting. You need to play him in this position, and you got to be moving around at all times. And if you're in the outfield, you're watching a coach that's moving you around, and you got to be paying attention to who's what's going on in different positions on the field, and that's all on top of trying to get your hitting stuff correct, right? So it's a special player that can bounce between different positions and different, like hitting to fielding to pinch hitting to DHing, nowadays in the National League. And there's a lot of different things that go on with that. I think a guy has to have the right mindset of, no, this is going to make me more valuable for the team and more valuable as an individual player. If they have any like block from that says, well, I'm not going to be as good if I'm pulled in all these different directions, then they're probably not going to be as good in doing all that. So it's a mindset thing, but it's also, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I would tell him, hey, do all the prep work that you feel like you need to do that makes I got this. Like, I can play this position just as well as any other guy. If you have any doubt going into that position that you can't do it, or that you have to do it like a Gold Glover, you got to let go of that. It's like, do it the way that Chris Morel plays the position best. And if he can grasp that and feel confident about that, he's going to just get better over time, in my opinion. But some guys, it's more of a feel, and they can't get past the uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
And you just, those are guys that you really want to make sure that they're feeling right.
Yeah. I'm curious. So kind of connecting 16 and 2023 is obviously David Ross. He's polarizing based on every decision that he makes in game or every lineup that he sets out there, whatever, like any manager is. But I'm curious, in 16, being around him, I mean, could you guys tell this guy was going to be a future manager? And if so, like, what stood out as, like, this guy could be a manager someday?
Absolutely, we could tell that this guy has not just the baseball acumen, but the ability to manage different personalities around him. Mm-hmm. And he's comfortable in his own skin. That's one thing that it's hard to be in a clubhouse, is know who you are and where you fit, but not let that, like, he wasn't going to be an everyday player, but that didn't mean that he didn't feel like his personality couldn't be one of the strongest in the clubhouse. He always had a strong personality. He always was able to laugh with this guy, joke with this guy, have a serious conversation with this guy. He could bounce to different personalities and different needs, and that's what a manager really is managing different personalities in a lot of ways. And also media, that's a big part of the job that, I'm sure is frustrating to a lot of managers. And he was well-spoken. You knew that he could handle some of that stuff really well. But ultimately, it comes down to being able to have emotional intelligence. And I think the guys that you recognize, I didn't really recognize that's what it was at the time, but you're going, everybody likes this guy. Doesn't mean he doesn't say anything that doesn't make you upset, but you like the fact that he's going to challenge you when he needs to challenge you, but he's also going to pat you on the butt when he needs to do that. He could do both, and you respected every bit of what he was doing. So it's just a unique skill set that's really a soft skill. It's less of a hard baseball skill that you learn, and it was just knowing how to work with pitching staff, but also knowing how to talk to a hitter. And he just, every part of the game, there was nothing that he didn't converse well about. And you just knew this guy's going to be a pro. And then on top of that, you saw the way he handled everything socially. And then all that kind of going from the Grandpa Rossi stuff into I want to manage and the Cubs giving him that opportunity. I just knew he's going to be a fantastic one. It takes time, and things have to go well in that position. But he is the guy, in my opinion, to get the team to the next level if anybody's going to do it right now.
We've talked a lot about hard work and all this type of stuff, and yesterday the Cubs nominated Nico Horner for the Heart Hustle Award.
Heart and Hustle.
What are the qualities that you see in a player like him that, I guess, remind you of yourself?
Oh, I try not to compare myself to those young guys because
I guess a young version
yes,
of you.
Well, I did love the way that he worked consistently. Consistent work ethic, no matter what's happening for you on the field, is really important. And he had that early on. In 19, he came over to spring training. After we had drafted him, and I got to talk to him a little bit. He was quiet at the time, but if you asked him a question, he could expound on it. He wasn't just going to be mute. He just waited until it was his time to talk. But when he talked about things, you could tell he understood different parts of the game that's hard for a younger player to understand. He understood in this moment, this is the decision to make. He could logically make the right decisions on the field, but also know himself to know what he needed to work on, what he wanted to get better at, and where he fit. To know he's not trying to be a power hitter. That's not the kind of hitter he is. He's going to stay inside the ball. He's going to be a great two-strike hitter, and he's going to work into some power, but know that stay within his lane and be the fantastic defender that he always has been, and all that extra about him as a player is going to develop, but you just knew he's going to be a steady, consistent force for whatever team he's involved in at the big league level.
I thought one of the key moments for this team in flipping the page from rebuild, getting rid of guys to, okay, we're on the way up, was Nico saying, you can get Dansby Swanson, I'll move to second base. That's the type of thing, like you, willing to play different positions, that he was doing it team first. So I like that part about him. When I look at this team, I'll admit that I was a quitter. I need your course. I need your course on enjoying the process and getting rid of all those things. I need your master class on Saturday. So now I'm buying all in, but I am curious because I don't think the players were, any of them, on the path that I was. Okay, I watched it and I was like, nah, they're going to sell. This is it. This is over. What comes first in a winning franchise for winners? Teams that are going to win championships. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it chemistry or is it winning?
You can't pick. That's such a hard question. You can't pick because
asking the tough questions.
Both, that's
Hard
a great.
hitting.
They tell us that we
both
never ask
have to
tough
be present.
That's
Both
true.
have to be present. And the tricky thing as a player is you have to trick yourself into, when you're not winning, say we're going to win. Mm-hmm. Even though you're feeling like maybe we won't win, no, we're going to win. And here's how we're going to do it. It's not about the end of the day what the scoreboard says. It really is about the process. But it's hard to not feel that when everybody else is looking at, what does the scoreboard say? What do our stats say? What does the standings say? Like, this team this year has been able to go from 10 games below to 10 games above at certain points in the season. That is one of the most difficult things to do in sports, because at one point in the season you're feeling like this is going way in the wrong direction, and you got to totally believe that, no, we can turn this around to be where they're at right now. I mean, it's a special team right now because of that, because that doesn't happen. That's rare. It's very rare.
He mentioned the rebuild, and I guess a two-part question. One, 2021 trade deadline, did it shock you to see all the trades and the core get sent out of Chicago? And two,
I hear him sighing over here.
And two, how just from the outside looking in, were you expecting them to kind of get to this point this fast? Like, did you think Jed and the rest of the front office and Ross, like, they had it in them to get them back to this position this quickly?
The first part of the question, I was not shocked that they had to sell a few guys. I was shocked that all three of those guys went at the same time, like everybody else. It was like gut punch, right? To lose them all at the same time in the middle of a season. But those guys were bound to make their money on the free agent market. And Chicago, you just knew they aren't going to pay everybody. You can't pay everybody. You don't have unlimited resources. And I think the second part of that really just, I just feel like they, that was Jed's first year, right, as running the helm. And in a certain way, they had to restock the minor league system and get us back to a place where they're at now, where guys are coming in the pipeline. Almost guys you're not expecting to come contribute now are contributing quicker. And, the draft picks and everything that adds into that. And there's just a cycle with that. You can't have unlimited minor league guys coming up from the system, stocking the system. They had to have a reset at some point, and it was like a rip the Band-Aid off moment. This is probably not going in the right direction, but we have to make a decision. And that's where they had to just, are the right young guys available to cash in right now? And they did it, even though it's really hard at the major league level to see that. A good organization makes tough decisions, and they own up to it. They have to wear it for a period of time and see if it works out. Yeah. And that's what, thankfully, it's starting to work out pretty quickly.
I want to get to a super chat from Emily. We're running out of time here with Ben Zobrist, World Series MVP, former Cub, and Emily has a great point here. She says, "Hey guys, big fan. I'm a diehard, thank you, and watched or listened to every show you've ever done. Zoe, how can us fans help support your mission?"
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. The first thing really is being involved in the organization through the website. We're going to have some tools online. Getting in part of our online community would be fantastic. We have a podcast that just launched this past week. We've got we've got some in-person events. We've also got some online webinars and things like that we're doing to start to get the word out. But we really just need people to join up with that community and start getting on our email list and listening to the podcast and interacting like you guys are doing here. This is fantastic because you guys get feedback immediately about what you're doing and how and whether or not you're delivering what you really want these people to have and building this community here. That's what we want to do. We know that in order to actually provide the best resources for young athletes, parents, and coaches, we've got to have the best feedback. We need, so we're always going to be about quality over quantity because we know that ultimately the impact that we want to make, the change that we want to make in the sports world is going to come from people like you guys having a personal experience and story. And people get interested in my story. Why? Because, I was helped do something really special in Chicago sports stories. But I believe that everybody's story is really, really impactful for everybody around you, right? So if you start experiencing the game and experiencing it in a new way, in a fresh way, in a healthier way, and thriving in the way that you're doing that, people around you are going to benefit from it. And ultimately, everybody's experience is going to be better. So we just need feedback. We need to know. We need you to be a part of what we're doing. So thank you for asking that question.
Anytime you want to drop information in our chat or stop by, talk about it for 5 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, remote, in person, whatever you want.
Yeah.
You're always welcome here.
This chat and this show are always open to you.
Appreciate that, guys.
I do want to tell you guys about FOCO real quick. We get these cool set decorations. FOCO's got the best sports gear around: hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. Aloha shirts for Ryan, straw shirts, polos, bags, everything you need. The set decorations, go to FOCO.com or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off, and then go get yourself some sunglasses.
Yeah, I got to tell you about Shady Rays, Ben. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That's what you get with Shady Rays, and that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. Together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the U.S. through Shady Rays Impact. From building play sets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime, Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. If you don't like your Shady Rays, exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And exclusively for our listeners and Ben Zobrist, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
I need me some Shady
that
Rays.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
I think I can
Drop them while you're
I'm
fishing. They give you a
sold.
new pair.
He's in.
All right,
He's
we
in.
have one more very important super chat from Braggs in the stands.
Who's literally sitting
He's
behind
literally
the camera.
sitting right there. $10, and even our own coworker gave us $10. He says,
Nice
"Does
of him.
Ben have a Bears camp story from Olivet Nazarene, and does he hate Green Bay?"
You know what? When Olivet had the Bears camp, it was so new at the time, and I was so busy with baseball, I wasn't around. I was doing other things, playing baseball when they were doing that, because that was before the actual school year started. So I didn't actually get to go to camp, unfortunately, while it was there. But the answer to the Green Bay is yes. I hate the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, wow. There we go.
That's
What
what
a
I'm
way to
talking
end
about.
it. Beautiful.
This is my favorite part of the podcast.
That's it. Now. Oh, yeah. Throw it to him.
Oh,
What do we got here?
Here we go.
Oh,
Getting
little
free merchandise.
Yes.
little
All
little
right.
dope
You show
merch from our locker.
Beautiful. There we go.
Wear that with pride.
I was going to say,
please.
I'm surprised we've gotten this far on the show, and Cody hasn't asked about striking out Yadier Molina.
Someone left a comment about it, and I was literally about to bring it
There
up
we
right
go.
now.
All right, we got to
There
get
we
him out of here, but go real quick. Ask him about Yadier Molina.
Okay. Obviously, this is a Cubs podcast. I hate the Cardinals. I know you grew up in Eureka and you're a Cardinals fan. I hate the Cardinals, and I loathe Yadier Molina. All right. When you struck out Yadier Molina in a very heartbreaking end of 2019, it salvaged something for me. All right. What was it like for you doing that? And also, what was it like being a position player pitching in that moment?
Oh, it was so fun. I mean, obviously it wasn't a fun part of the season for us because they were making the playoffs. We weren't.
Right.
But I was like, okay, I've never done this on a base. I pitched in college, and between the time I was in college baseball pitching and the time that I actually pitched in a competitive game against future Hall of Famer Yadier Molina was 16 years. I mean, literally kids were driving cars that hadn't been born yet the previous time I had pitched. So, yeah, I was like, okay, can I still do this? And I knew I had a few pitches in my bag, but
In his bag.
I mean, against guys like Paul Goldschmidt, Dexter, Yachty, I mean, Ozuna at the time, I don't know, let's see how this goes. And thankfully, I got to 2 outs with men on first and second before Yachty came up. But Yachty is one of the guys that's one of the hardest people to strike out. For the guys that pitched against him, he was a difficult strikeout. So I wasn't thinking about striking him out. The key was blowing. It was throwing below the hitting speed, I think the key. And then ultimately, I just pulled this out. I think the weight of my ring was probably
there it is.
probably a little heavier than his. was, so the
God.
ball just dropped, a little bit below the zone. He swung through it. It was so fun though. It was it was fun to see his reaction. Like he's like hands on the hips, like you got to be kidding me.
I won't lie, it's my favorite part of his career.
We got time for one more? I got one more for you. I mentioned, what drew you to that going into 16 Cubs team. Take this 2023 team and plop it into 15. You're in December 2015. If this is that season's team, is that a team that you would think about signing with?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the reason would have to do with the personnel that are in place. The feel of the organization is really important too. But it's also the whole experience. As a player, as a free agent, when you go into free agency, you're looking at is there a possibility to win, because I really want to win. But you're also looking at what's the atmosphere for everybody involved, my family, all this. And then you're going, is this a place that I could see myself making not just a home, but making an impact, right? And Chicago provides one of the best quality experiences for a free agent when they show you everything. And now the way that the Ricketts family has built everything up around there and the marketability of players in a city like Chicago, it's one of the most desirable places to potentially sign for anybody, even when they're not winning. But when you have a young team like this that has shown that they can win, this free agent opportunity for any guys that are out there, I mean, it's a big year. It's a big year because they could go to the next level with some potential guys.
Ben Zobrist to the 2024 Cubs confirmed.
Clip it and send it to Ohtani immediately.
And Cody Bellinger while you're
Cody
at it, please.
Bellinger, yeah.
Hey, you talk about doing things in the community afterwards. Champion Forward is his nonprofit, Ben Zobrist. Live Masters class coming up this Saturday at the Jason Hayward complex. I don't know what he calls it.
Intentional Sports Facility.
Intentional Sports
Jason
Facility.
Hayward's Baseball Academy is there.
What is the website if people want to go and get involved in this?
That's a good. I'm not great with all the website stuff.
Champion Forward.
Yeah, just go to our Instagram. Champion
Champion
Forward Instagram. That's where all the details will be.
For sure.
Boom.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Awesome.
One more thing. This is more of a request.
He's trying to get out of here.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Tomorrow, you're throwing out the first pitch, right? And eventually, during the game, they are going to put you up on the video board. I am requesting that you chug a beer bat at Wrigley when they do that.
Cody
This is
chugs
big.
Cody
need
chugs
that.
a beer after every win.
I'm just not so sure if I want to work with youth. That might be the best image I want to put out.
Fair.
But
I'm
before
telling you,
an event,
That's
right? It's
true.
like, hey,
That's
I'm going to
fair.
go talk to your kids and let's enjoy a nice beer bat. I don't know if that's the best thing we want to do.
That's fair.
But
That seems fair.
Especially
Very
after
fair.
yesterday, as our guy Clayton mentioned in the
Yeah.
chat.
Got away from him a little bit. Another super chat.
real quick.
What's up, Zarilla,
I'll
our
explain it to you
hometown
after
hero? Someone from Eureka, Clayton Stoker.
Stecker?
What's
Stecker?
up, Clayton?
Wanted to know if you would do that. What did you think of the beer bat chug from yesterday? If Cody,
We'll show it.
got
We'll
show it to you after
Got
the game.
after him. It was a little
Unfortunately,
too
we will
cold.
show you.
It's a little too cold. Thanks to Ben Zobrist. We greatly appreciate all the time and beyond that you went on this podcast today. Welcome anytime. Anything we can do to help out the nonprofit, please let us know. And please come back sometime.
Thank you.
Or
It's
shout
been really
out to
fun.
us.
It's been really fun.
Thank
so
you.
much, though. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
we'll see you guys back here after the Cubs game tonight for an hour-long post-game podcast. Until then, fly the W.